it was like I had died. Oh my God, I'm about to cry. I got so low, where it was almost like there was no more blood inside of me. I really felt empty.
Tia Mowry, actress and producer.
Starring in Sister Sister, The Game, Instant Mom.
And she has 28 million followers on social platforms.
My mother, she had told my sister and I, she was like, none of this is gonna last. The limos are gonna stop one day. And we looked at her at first and we were like, why are you hating? Yeah. I no longer want to live life feeling like this. I deserve to chase the joy and to, you know, of course, when you say live happy, I mean, life is like this, up and down, but that's why I'm saying I actually got to the point of no return.
Yeah. I'm Radhi Devlukia, and on my podcast, A Really Good Cry, we embrace the real, the messy, and the beautiful, providing a space for raw, unfiltered conversations that celebrate vulnerability and allow you to tune in to learn, connect, and find comfort together. Okay, so first of all, I just need to say, you have no idea how weird it is for me to have you on my sofa, because I grew up watching you, obviously, and the best part was when I met you in person, I think it was a couple of years ago, I already loved you, but then I met you in person and I was like, how is it possible to love you even more after meeting you in person?
Oh, thank you.
So I just want to say that it was so wonderful to have admired someone for such a long time and then to meet them and be like, wow, she's even better. Not that you weren't amazing, but even better than I ever thought you would be. And everything that you do online now, by the way, the way that you come across, the things that you do online, like, I feel your personality, your energy, and your vibrance through it. But even more than that, I feel the desire you have to help uplift other people.
Thank you.
And so I just want to say thank you. And I'm so grateful to you for being here. And I'm so grateful for everything that you have given me without you even realizing you've done so. But I also want to ask you, where do you get, like, what are you drinking? Because where are you getting, your energy is unlimited. I need to know, what are you doing for this to happen in your life?
Oh my gosh. You know, I'm very intentional. And I just really take care of myself.
Yeah.
And it wasn't always like that. But I feel like after having children, I had to really learn how to choose me, meaning in regards to like self-love and not looking at taking care of myself as selfish.
Yeah.
I think we, especially as women, we tend to, of course, put all of our attention and energy on nurturing others, that it was very easy for me to forget about myself. So I can be fully transparent. I ended up also just really getting very ill and sick because I was constantly giving and not
replenishing.
Yes. So I was like, okay, I had to hit rock bottom or crash when it came to my health to wake up.
Yeah.
And so I make sure that I, sleep, I meditate, I journal, and I'm still learning to try to focus on things that give me joy.
Yeah.
And that just makes me happy and feel good. And I am into wellness and just eating well. And I'm not saying that this happens all the time, you know what I mean? It doesn't. But I am intentional with it. And I feel like by me working on myself and, replenishing myself in this manner, I'm able to give more and, jump around and do these videos and, have fun.
And what do you said intentional, like on those bad days, like the days that we all have where
girl.
you feel not like your normal self, you feel like things are weighing you down. How do you go from being in a mood which doesn't serve you? What are your practices and rituals that you've learned over time that get you from being in that bad mood to then uplifting yourself back into a space that you want to be?
I have an incredible friend named Vex King.
Yes.
And one thing that I have been doing more often or just now is with this journal by Vex and his wife, there's a list of things that give you joy, right? It's a toolbox. That's basically what he calls it. And he's like, you can even make this toolbox full of objects, or you can just write down the list.
Oh, okay.
You could have like a toolbox and you put all of these objects in, and whenever you're having a chaotic day, you just open up this toolbox and then
such a good
boom.
idea.
It's an incredible idea. Because when you're in that mind space, sometimes you just don't
feel
really,
foggy.
You do.
Yeah.
So to already have something prepped and planned is awesome. But I do stuff like affirmations are really, really important to me. And I've been
Do you
doing
have any that you say in particular?
Let's see. Today, what I have been focusing on and meditating on, and it's very short, is just be present.
Yeah.
I feel like it's very easy for me and people to move through life
on autopilot. Yeah.
Or for me, especially where I am in my life right now, focusing on the past and then also kind of being obsessed with the future.
Yes.
Because where I am right now in certain areas in my life, there's a huge unknown. And so that brings a lot of chaotic energy and anxiety. So by me just kind of saying, you know what, stop, just focus on being present. I can feel I'm safe. I can feel that I'm loved. I can feel that I am okay. And it just makes me feel better. So affirmations. Also reading. Like I feel like when I read like a great book, I'm currently reading a book right now called When Things Fall Apart. And when I am in sort of some like chaos with my mind and my anxiety, when I kind of shift that focus and kind of like focus it on kind of like a self-help book in some kind of way, it just kind of grounds me. And brings me back to and it makes me, feel good. And then my kids.
Children are just like dopamine hits, aren't they?
Hard.
I always say that to my sister.
I love that.
They really are. All I want to do is cuddle my nieces and nephews. If I have a bad day, all I need is for them to just look at me and to give me this like warm, fuzzy hug. And I'm like, you know what? I'm fine. I'm great.
Yeah. And it's true.
But I love what you said about the unknown of, because I do find whenever I think about me, like my mind, we were talking about this, our minds travel a lot. They are constantly on the move and sometimes more than we'd like them to be. And for me, what I realized in my life is the unknown is where fear lies. Like we always are, like that's why we're scared of the dark. That's why we're scared of, opening a door that we don't know is what's behind it. And so in life, that's the same. When you end up on a path that was unexpected and you don't know what the end goal is or what the end of the road looks like, that's scary to us. But I found so much like solace in the concept of through fear, like if the unknown is what we're fearing, knowledge is what we need to get out of that fear.
Ooh.
And so I think one of my teachers, Radhi Swami, he always says this. He says that to cut through the darkness of fear, with the sword of knowledge. And so what I interpreted that to be is whenever I'm scared of even doing something, it's usually what I'd be scared of exams or whatever it was. The more you prepare for something, the more you end up knowing about something, the easier it ends up feeling and the more comfortable you get, because you're only comfortable with something that feels welcoming and known to you. And sometimes that's impossible because you don't know sometimes where a path is going. But the knowing that you can do is understanding yourself, because you are because I think even if you don't know where the path is going, but you know yourself on that path, that brings some sort of solace and comfort. And I think that's the work that you're doing, because you're spending time on yourself to figure out who you are. And I remember something you said about your children, saying that for me to live in my truth, that's the best thing for my children to see. By the way, you said that. I didn't say that. That was you saying that.
No, I feel like it really is, because as a mom, I feel like the best teachings that I could give them is through example.
Yeah, definitely.
So, and kids, they learn through observation. I could sit here and all I want.
Yeah.
But when they actually see mommy, moving and, being an example or living an authentic life, or just kind of like moving through her fears and or even, her desires and working hard and all of that, when they actually see me doing that, then I feel like, they are able to learn. Speaking of learning, because, I have anxiety. Okay.
Yes.
Ugh. And I am trying to find practices and tools on how to deal with that. So with, not necessarily knowing where I'm going with certain things in my life, it has brought on tons of anxiety. But in this book that I'm reading, When Things Fall Apart, there was a quote or dialogue where she had said, look at people who are experiencing fear or you being afraid of something, consider that being like, you are lucky, actually. And I was like, it was so like mind blowing to me. Like, wow, like how is that so? And basically what she was saying is when you are moving through something that you are afraid of, it's actually showing courage. Like when you are looking at fear straight in the eyes and straight in the face, it's actually showing that you are courage and that you are brave. Some people think that when people do things that they're afraid of, it means that they or when they do things of the unknown, that they don't have fear. You know what I mean?
But actually, it's the strength and the endurance that it takes to work through it.
Yes.
That's so true.
Right?
I think, you don't learn anything through avoiding. Like you never learn, if you keep taking, it's like when you're trying to get to a certain place, but you don't want to take this one route, but you keep trying to take all these roads that don't actually get you to the place you need to be. And I think it's always like you either have to go through it or you're going to end up, I mean, you won't figure anything out otherwise. You really won't. And I think I've noticed that in my life too. I've tried to avoid a lot. And I've been like, no, not going to go that way. Yeah. But then I've ended up lost because actually I needed to go through that fear. I needed to go through what I was going through to actually get to the place where I can start new or I can start fresh. And when you're, I love what you said about, navigating and going through the different routes that like unexpectedly. But what have you found has been, a difficult time in your life? You don't have to say what it was, but how did you go from, you mentioned your lowest part of your health. What were the steps that you took? Actually, I want to rephrase that. How did you notice you were in a place of unhappiness? Because I think, for a lot of people, you can go through.
Oh my God.
But you can go through your whole life being unhappy and not realizing it because it's your comfort zone. And that's what I've realized. I've gone through a lot of my life, like years where,
oh my gosh, that's deep.
I was sitting in my discomfort, but I was sitting in unhappiness, but it was comfortable to me. It was a comforting place because I'd been there for a while. And so going into joy or happiness was uncomfortable because it required change. Yeah. And so sometimes it's easier staying in the crap and being comfortable than being happy and being uncomfortable. So how did you manage to, through all the different hats and things that you've done in your life, remain authentic to yourself and keep coming back to who you were?
When I felt that there was extreme unhappiness was when I got, or how I got to my lowest, was when I if I'm being very, very honest, it's like I couldn't even move anymore.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like I almost felt like everything inside of me no longer had any energy. It was like I had died. Oh my God, I'm about to cry. It's like I got so low, where it was almost like there was no more blood inside of me. Does that make sense? Like I really, really felt empty. And then I speak in analogies. And I think for me, when I knew that there was some sort of level of unhappiness is when the cup was completely empty.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I do.
we do go through life where there is water in the cup and then, you're giving the water, but then that water is being replenished.
Yes.
That water is being replenished, whether that's from other people or whether that's you replenishing yourself.
Yeah.
But I wasn't doing any of that. I wasn't replenishing myself and things were just, it was constant. It was like I was in this constant space of everything was being taken. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and then you're so empty that you no longer have anything left, that you just couldn't move. Like there was just nothing left to give.
Yeah, every part of you was physically, mentally,
everything.
emotionally.
everything was just like done. And I had to choose. It was like I was at the crossroads, and it was like, either you choose to stay down or you choose to take the uncomfortable route.
Yeah. But that's so brave. To do that, to take the uncomfortable route, it can take lifetimes.
Oh, yeah.
To get us to take that one step. And it's just that one step that it takes. But that one step feels so big. It feels so big and so unreachable.
Yes. So far away. And then I realized, I said, you know what? Life is short.
Yeah.
And we all go.
Yeah.
And I no longer want to live life feeling like this. I deserve to not feel like that and to feel replenished and to chase the joy and to, of course, when you say live happy, I mean, life is like this up and down, but that's why I'm saying I actually got to the point of no return. Yeah. So that's,
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
And so I get so many messages from people telling me they feel like they're at their lowest point. And that's why I love having these conversations, because I think we all need to hear from people who have had their lows, and then to see someone like you who has been able to pull yourself out of that. So when you realize, you were like, okay, cool, I need to make some changes and I need to do this. Do you have any tools or tips for people to, what was it after taking that step, or to make that step? What did it take? Like, what were were there practices? Were there people you spoke to? What was it that you ended up being able to do?
Therapy.
Therapy. No, that's great. I think there is such a taboo for therapy in my culture.
In my culture.
Yes.
So I'm
so happy you shared that, because I think it's so important.
It is. And, I actually studied growth and child development and psychology in college.
Wow.
And I love my mother to death. Mother, I love you.
Yes.
But when she found out that I was studying it, it was like, what?
Yeah.
How dare you? What are you talking about?
What did I do wrong? My mom as well. When we tell my mom we're thinking about doing therapy, I'm like, Mom, why don't you do therapy? She's like, what do you think is wrong with me?
Yeah. So I said, you know what? And it was actually, I will say this too, the therapy was, because it's very taboo and not necessarily encouraged and influenced in my culture. So I have a really, really good friend, O.T. Fagmanley.
Okay.
And he is all about like self-awareness and, learning about your traumas and just going to therapy. And I've known him since 2008. Okay. And, I had shared some, things that I was going through, and he was like, Tia, I really, really would suggest therapy. And I was like, whatever. Yeah. And then 2012, Tia, therapy. I'm like, what? Like, what are you talking about? 2016 or whatever. It kept on going. And he's like, look, if you take the time to schedule hair appointments, workouts, because I would say I'm too busy and blah, blah, blah. And he was like, no, you need to really like take the time and prioritize this. And it wasn't until my grandmother had passed away 5 years ago, and I had never been to a funeral.
Yeah.
So this was like the first time I'm experiencing a transition. And I was like, whoa, we all will be there one day, Tia. You need to just really get your, act together, and, get on this path of wellness and healing. And that was when I was like, okay, you know what? I really, really need to get into therapy. So I've been in therapy for about 5 years now.
Wow.
And what's so crazy, I thank my grandmother, because in her death, I feel like there's been some sort of rebirth with me. And that's basically, I credit my growth and kind of really having some sort of support with that first step. I credit it to my therapist.
That's so wonderful.
She's wonderful. She's very, very smart. And that has been very beneficial. And then meditation.
What kind of meditation do you do, by the way?
So, I have been doing, as of late, Joe Dispenza.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, which is
incredible.
Yeah, which is an interesting approach and a different approach to.
Could you explain
yes,
a
so
little bit for people
basically,
who
and
don't
I am
know?
not no expert, please, I just started doing this, but basically with Joe Dispenza, he's trying to encourage or influence your thought process and not trying to live in the past and move through your past experiences, which can be extremely stifling to you, and be more present, and move more in the present moment, and also not focusing too much on the future, but working on your conscious. And as you are in your meditation, you go into different brainwaves.
Okay.
And as you go into one brainwave, I don't know the specific brainwave it is, whether it's delta or alpha, I don't know. So please excuse me. But I can literally feel myself move to another, move.
Is it silent meditation?
No, it's guided. So he guides you.
Yes.
And he'll tell you once you're in this conscious, I guess, mind, you start implanting your thoughts and your ideas there. Instead of he's trying to get you to move away from your past experiences. And so you tell yourself what you no longer want to be.
Yeah.
And then you move into telling yourself what you want to be, what you see yourself as, or how you see yourself as in the future, or what you would like to see yourself as. And I can share with you guys, what I tend to do is I say that I want to create more boundaries for myself because I have a hard time saying no.
Yeah.
And so I will do this in my meditation, and it's great. It works. Like,
really?
It's crazy how all of a sudden you'll just find yourself like,
no.
I'm like,
you're like walking around saying, no, before they even open their mouth. No, and no. And you're like, this is a great day.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it worked. So anyway, that's the meditation that I've been doing.
Yeah, I think it's so difficult to let go of your past sometimes, because I do think even if it's painful and even if it's difficult, it becomes like your past is a part of you. And so it's so hard. It's almost like cutting ties of versions of yourself I remember someone saying to me, I think I said it to them when we were talking about their relationship, and even they had broken up with someone, and then I said, you have to mourn the person you were. Like, it's not even about that person. It's not even about him. It's about you, because you have become a whole new version of yourself. And that version of yourself doesn't include this human. And so I was like, it doesn't even have to be about him. What you're also mourning is the version of yourself that you are letting go of.
So true.
And I mean, I think that's true. I mean, when I think about it for myself, I think that's true as I'm moving through life, changing as a human, with like, regardless of other people, because I hold on to versions of myself that people think I was, or that I was back then. And I'm like, with the boundaries thing, it really upset me because I've been trying to do the same thing. But sometimes one of my friends messaged me about something and I set a boundary. And I remember the next time I saw her, she was like, oh, wow, like, you've really changed so much. And it kind of people end up taking it as, oh, you're not as sweet anymore, or you're not as nice anymore, you're not as welcoming anymore. But actually it's not that. And so it takes a while to cut that tie of your old self that was people pleasing.
Oh, that's me.
Yes, that was always doing things to bend over backwards for other people, but then compromising what you want and sacrificing what you want. And to other people, that's amazing, because she's always available. She's always ready to help. She's easygoing. Oh, I'm going to change plans last minute. She won't care. But then when you start setting boundaries, like, oh, you've become a bit firm now. Like, you've become a bit harsh now. And
you're
so
unlikable, or
and then
unlovable, or I don't know.
And it's hard letting go of that version of yourself, because you do want people to like you, and you want to be felt. You want to be that person that everybody gets along with. And so I think it's hard letting go of the past, people, and yourself, because it's letting go of parts of you.
That is so true. Even as I've, been on this journey of change, and I love butterflies, and actually even here you saw, but what I love about butterflies is, and I actually have a tattoo here, is that as they are, caterpillars or whatever, and then they get into their little cocoon, they have to push themselves and break themselves out in order for them to fly. And they get their strength from, pushing and doing that and going through the discomfort and all of that. But anyway, I say that to say I feel like I am a butterfly right now, meaning I am evolving and I am growing. And as I'm growing and evolving and turning into this person that I am enjoying and desiring to be, I've actually been fearful of, like, even with my career, I'm like, am I gonna like doing what I've always wanted to do? Because I just have a different perspective on things now. And I say that to say that I am not the same person that I was even a year ago. As I've really started learning more about myself. One of my friends, Joel, he's a poet. He's from New York, and he had asked me a question, and he said, "Who are you if you are not? Who are you if you are not a mother?
Yeah.
Who are you if you are not an actress?
Yeah.
Who are you if you are not these roles that you have been,
these hats that you're putting on?" Yeah.
And I remember when he first asked me, I started crying because I had no idea.
Yes.
I had
gone through this.
No idea.
Yeah.
So that's the journey that I am on now. I'm discovering and finding out who I am. What is it that I like? I'm working on no longer being that people, pleaser. And I feel like that is how I got to my lowest. I became such a people pleaser that I lost sight of me. And I'm learning also in therapy that my whole life has been about pleasing people. Like, as a child, it was all about appealing and being criticized, healthy, constructive criticism, but still it's criticism. Stand here, do that, be more funny, do this, and I had to make people laugh.
Yeah.
So that was the space that I was living in that was comfortable for me for so many years. And then once it was just I was so depleted, I was like, I can't do this anymore.
No.
So, but it's hard. It's not easy, making that transition.
Yeah, I feel I went through a similar thing in terms of I would constantly focus on other people's lives, whether it was attracting friends who needed help or wanting to constantly help my family with things or being the fixer, being someone who was always solving problems. And I came to this realization that all of that was actually to avoid, one, me doing the work to figure out who I am. Ooh. And two, which was difficult, and two, to feel like I have value.
I feel like a lot of women.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if a lot of men, kind of
think about this.
Yeah,
it's true. Aww. No, but it's so true. It's like, I do find that if you constantly keep focusing on other, and I used to think of myself as just being like, oh, it's because I really want to help people. And I do, of course I do.
Yeah.
But actually, if I thought about the deep root reason, it was because I was trying to figure out my value, and the value I was placing on myself was through how other people valued me.
That was me.
And so when I moved to New York, I went through my caterpillar butterfly phase where I got to a place where no one knew me. I didn't know anyone myself. I was by myself a lot. Like I was spending full days on my own. I couldn't work. I couldn't distract myself. And I had to sit with myself and be like, who the hell am I? Because I can't be a dietitian anymore.
Yeah, I remember you telling
I don't have my job anymore.
Yeah.
And I have no external hats that I'm wearing. And so I buried myself in cooking for Jay. I was like following around, trying to jump on his bandwagon and trying to jump on his purpose. What I realized was jumping on someone else's purpose, if you don't have it yourself, your energy runs out because you don't have the same fuel, the same desire that's burning inside of you to do it. And so I was running out of fuel, I was running out of energy, and I was running out of any kind of motivation or desire to even continue on every single day because I hadn't figured out what I wanted. And so I do think as we're growing older, it's like you think it's going to be a slow but upward movement. What I actually think it is you are on track, you completely fall off track, you get back on track, you find your way back on track. Through that getting back on track, you learn some lessons. You stay on track for a little bit longer. You then fall back off track.
Oh my gosh, that's exactly what this book said when things fall apart.
And have that expectation that that's what it's going to be, right?
Exactly. Because I feel like with me and how I've been taught and I just learned is kind of like you do to try to get to this goal, right?
Yeah.
And this goal is, let's just say, figuratively speaking, like heaven, no matter what that goal is, whether it's a house or a relationship or work. It's that feeling of, that once you get there, then you're never going to be miserable again. But that's not true. And in this book that I'm reading, When Things Fall Apart, she was basically saying, the author was saying, no, life is actually things fall apart, then you get back on track again. Things fall apart, then you get back on track again. It's amazing. Things fall apart, then you get back on track again. And when you have that perspective of life, you will embrace, the
falling.
And you won't look at the falling as judgment.
And you'll also start, if you're expecting it, you start creating what you said, like the toolbox. So if you know it's going to happen, you're going to start creating a life. And I've started to do this because I know for me, when my spiritual practices fall off track, my whole life feels like it's falling apart. I go through my day, I'm not the same person, I'm not as nice of a human, and also I feel lost. Like I feel really lost when my practices are not right. And I've recently got them back on track. The beginning of this week, honestly. And what it made, but I had this whole thing of, if I'm not waking up at this time, and if I'm not doing it in this way, and if I end up not doing it. But instead I'm like, no, even if I'm showing up and I'm doing it crap, and even if I'm sitting on my phone half the time, at least I'm showing up and committing to it. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. And if I fall off track, I don't have to guilt myself. Like, I don't have to make myself feel guilty. I don't have to tell myself that I'm a terrible person. What I do is the next day I try again. And I think it's this pressure we put on ourselves of everything being so onward and upward. But actually, it's exactly that. Like, it's okay to go off track. It's part of the. It's part of the plan. Have it as part of the plan. And then throughout your life, like I know for me now that it's my spiritual practices. So if everything else falls apart around me, if I have this anchor that is my spiritual practice in the morning, all those other things don't feel as difficult. And I've already I'm creating this almost armor around me to be able to handle whatever else comes at me. And I was thinking about this the other day because, we do everything we do for our body, we work out, right? And we know that that's going to protect us in terms of health. And we also get energy from that. Like you work out, you get dopamine hits, you get energy from that. You eat, you get energy from that. What I realized was when you stop your spiritual practices, and by the way, by that, I don't mean religious practices. I mean a moment where you are connecting to yourself, the universe, and if you want to, God. But having those moments where you are tuning into yourself, without that, you are missing a whole power source. Like you're shut down. You are shut down. There's a whole power source available to you that can fuel you in a completely different way.
It is so true.
And we're missing out on that. And so actually a lot of my low energy, and I'll be waking up in the morning and I'll be going to sleep, but I feel so tired. And I wasn't physically tired and I wasn't emotionally tired. I was spiritually depleted.
Ooh, that is deep.
I was so spiritually depleted, and it made me feel lost. It made me feel very sad all the time. It made me feel like you know what? It wasn't even sad. It was a whole lot of nothingness. And it's nothing. That's what I find scary. The feeling of nothingness, when nothing feels like it's worth anything. Why am I even doing this? Everything feels so blah and energyless. But knowing that, and then knowing what helps me and keeping on going back to that. It's like that. It's your north light. You just keep going back to it.
I call it, or say it, it's like, and I've heard other people say this too, it's like you coming back home. You know what I mean? Like to yourself.
Coming back
and
home.
like I said earlier, I feel like just women in general, I feel like, we are, even with like television and cartoons and all of that, you see women and their characters, it's like it's always dedicated to, someone else and searching for that instead of searching, within. But what I have learned, even as a mother, because I feel like, becoming a mother, you're back into that nurturing state. It's like the first thing that's on your mind is, are my kids happy? Are my kids fed? Are my kids clothed? And, I grew up with the understanding that if you had blood on your hands in because of you working so hard, then that means you're a great mom.
Yes, same. if you're doing all the work yourself, you're getting tired doing it, you're exhausting yourself, but that's a sign that you are a great mom. Yeah.
But what I've realized is, you said your spiritual practices, that I literally have a do not disturb sign on my door now. And I am unapologetic about it. In the morning, I have my spiritual practices, and those are my non-negotiables.
And they're serving them.
Yes, I will meditate, I will journal, and I will do 20 minutes of reading. And that's me tapping into me and my spirit. And I feel so much better when I start my day like that. Because nothing is perfect. And then as you navigate through life and things happen, I just feel, more connected to, get through the day. But I completely understand, what you're saying. And when I don't do that, I do feel like I'm off.
I love the coming back home, because that makes sense. Because when I'm away from it, I feel lost, and I feel like I'm in the dark. And coming back home to yourself is such a beautiful way of putting it. Yeah. I love that you put a do not disturb sign because and I love that you are seeing. I think our generation is now seeing.
Oh man,
how our practices, like my sister recently has told me that she's been doing the same thing. She has 2 children. She homeschools.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. It's a whole different thing. She homeschools, and everything was getting them fed, making sure they are okay, making sure they've studied. And she was getting so ill, so depleted. But now she's like, I know if I don't have my health, how am I going to look after my children? If I am not good, I am snapping at them. I am getting angry. I am not the best version of who I want to be. And when you talked about being an example for your children, I think this, like what you're doing right now, is the most beautiful example.
Thank you.
And I saw my mum, like I know my mum when I was growing up, she would say, do this. My mum had great spiritual practices growing up, but she would always be telling me to do them. And I'd be like, Mom, I don't want to do this. This is not what I want to do. I don't want to be in this. I don't want to wake up and light this candle. I have no idea why I'm doing it. And then my mum stopped telling, and I started watching her. And I saw her every day wake up at the same time. I saw her every day sit down for 2 hours to do her prayers. I saw her every day, she prays before she eats. She does all these things. And I have learned more in the few years that I've chosen to observe her than I did from the years of her telling me. Yeah. And the same with my dad's character. Like he never spoke badly about someone as I was growing up, and he was always so gentle and lived with integrity. Now I learned more about integrity and criticizing others and gossiping from watching him, not even him telling me, from watching how he was in horrible situations with people, and he said not one bad thing about them. That's what I learned through watching him do that. And so I think there is such a beauty in observation and allowing, and let me lead by example, because if I'm telling you to do it, it's like me saying to you, look, you really shouldn't be eating sugar, and then tomorrow you're like, you see me, I'm eating 3 donuts, and I'm wait, what? There's a disconnect.
Exactly. When they, see, like I said, observing and see you actually doing it. I've been, interesting that you say, the dynamic that you had between you and your mom when you were younger. Meditation has helped and changed my life so much that I'm now encouraging my son to. Yeah. And my son, he's 12 years old, and I'm like, Cree, do you want to meditate with me? He's like, no. I'm like, come on, Cree, like, let's just do it. But what I've noticed, even just last night, and he has been, it's like he's kind of inquiring. Like he was like, before I go to bed, I've been now trying to meditate more before I go to bed, because I always meditate in the morning, but now I'm trying to add the practice before I go to bed. And he's like, Mom, are you about to meditate? And I'm like, yeah, I am. Do you want to come with me? He's like, no, I'm good. And then the next day he'll be like, Mom, are you going to bed now? And I'm like, yeah. After I tuck him in, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to bed now. And he's like, you about to meditate? And I'm like, yeah, Cree. So hopefully, as he
sees your consistency, your commitment, the changes that you make as a person,
he'll want to one day, instead of me always asking him, to join. I'm like, I'll even hold your hand. He's like, no, Mom, but I did get him to do it once, but we'll see.
Yeah, and you're planting the seeds. Yeah. That's the point. Like my mom planted so many seeds in me that I didn't even know she was planting. Yeah, till later. She planted them through repetition, through me watching her. And then slowly, as I got to, what age was it? After college and university. Okay. That's when my my spiritual curiosity started actually growing into a plant, and then now it's flowering, and I look back now, and I think there's always like that with parents. You never appreciate, like, it's part of the children like parent relationship, where very rarely do you appreciate it in the time and in the moment.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And I think that's the karma of a parent, where you just like, you have chosen to have a child and it comes with all of this.
Yeah.
And as a child, it's our karma, where you get older and you're like, I wish I had listened a little bit more.
Yeah. It's interesting that you say that too, because people, they'll ask me this question, like, how do you feel, like, how did you survive childhood, stardom, and you didn't go, down the deep end? And my answer is, my parents. It's because of, them, and how, they nurtured us, and my mother, when we first, meaning my sister and I, when we were first on Sister, and there was success, and there was like limousines and all of this stuff, people were like catering to us. And my mother, she had told my sister and I, she was like, none of this is going to last. The limos are going to stop one day. Yeah. And we looked at her at first and we were like, why are you hating? Yeah. Why are you raining down on our parade? Yeah. Like, but it was, in all actuality, I love that she, said that, because she prepared us, you know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, that did happen. Yeah. The limos did stop coming. Yeah. And then there was a time where the show ended, and my sister and I, we hadn't worked for a very, long period of time. But in that moment, when we were on Sister, my sister and I, we were like, ew, but it's true. Like you may not appreciate it during that time, but as you get older, I'm like, gosh,
she built that mindset for you.
I thank God for my parents. Yeah. And them, being strict in that way.
And I love that you're at a point in your life, you mentioned this before, where you started seeing everything beyond the hats that you were wearing. And I think sometimes, like, I know people who've got to that stage at 80. I know people who've got to that stage at 20.
Yes.
There is, it happens in different parts of your life, but how beautiful that it has happened to you so early, because now you start to value, I think, you actually are born when you realize that, right? Like, yes, I feel like it's like true. You say, it's a whole new rebirth. And so I think I feel like the essence of this podcast that we're doing in this conversation is to do with getting back on track and how people can do that. But a beautiful way to even start, if you are so lost in your life and you feel like getting out of bed is difficult, and you feel like figuring out what you want to do in life is difficult, the first place to start is with yourself. And everything else, because when you get to, and yes, of course, we need stability and finances, and we're not taking away any of that, but none of that will end up even fueling you at all. Like, all those things are going to be temporary band-aids until you start fueling your own spirit and your own self. And I think that for me has been the biggest lesson, because my life has changed so much since being like living at home with my parents in London. I was living a much like simpler, in inverted commas, life. And I think about that, by simple, I mean externally simple. But I think about internally, and I honestly feel like, and obviously this ebbs and flows, but my simplicity of heart and what I actually truly desire has always stayed the same. Okay. Even if externally things have changed. Like, yes, it's wonderful to have more luxuries in life. Of course it is. Yeah. But has my desires for safety and security and understanding myself and love, like the basic needs, have always been the same. Everything else is just a cherry on the top. Yeah. And so I think the more I figured out what actually brings me joy versus what brings me fleeting happess has been this, every time I've fallen off track, it has been the start point of then figuring everything else out.
That's interesting. As you were, explaining, I also realized that for a long time, I was looking for others to make me happy.
Yeah.
And I realized that even I was looking for others for refuge.
Yes. Solve my problem. You should be the person that will complete whatever it is I'm voiding
or looking to others.
Yeah.
And what I've realized, how exactly like what you said, it's like once I come home to myself and once I change and turn the fingers at me and say, no, I am responsible.
I can self-soothe.
I can self-soothe. I am responsible, for, yes, of course, I'm looking for support, and you need a community of support.
Definitely.
But the person who's going to take that first step has to be you.
Yes. Well, I think about this with my friends that I used to help a lot, where it can't be that you're doing the 10% and I'm doing the 90%. That's never going to last. I can do your community can do the 10%, maybe even the 30%, but the majority has to be done by you for it to be a sustainable change.
Yes.
And for it to have effect.
Yes.
Because if everybody else is, and I had this in my life growing up, my parents, you know what, it was such a blessing, but at the same time, it was a little bit of a curse. My parents and my sister and everyone loved me so much. I was the youngest child. And so everything was, if I was struggling, everything was helped. Everything was done for me. If I had last minute homework, they would help me with it, stay up late. If I, every single thing was, it was almost like I got to the point of it was a little bit difficult and then everything was solved for me. And as beautiful as that is and how grateful I am to have a family that loves me, it also disabled me to believe that I could do anything myself. And so that was really difficult. Yeah. Because I got to New York and I was like, I can't even pick a damn spoon without calling my mom.
That's
I can't pick bed sheets without getting approval from my mom.
I was very sheltered, and like I just explained, that sheltering saved me from going down a wrong path.
Yeah.
But I too, feel the same way. So much to the point, and I know this, y'all don't judge me, but I still to this day, I have a hard time buttoning up my shirt. Like it'll just be all over the place, disheveled, because when I was on Sister, they dressed me for years.
Yes.
Like literally.
What was your age the time frame you were doing that?
14, 15, all the way up to 20.
Oh my God.
And all the way down to tying your shoes, putting on your tights, all of that. So, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. You know what I mean? And
I can just imagine you after that, standing in your bedroom, like after your shower, butt naked, and you're like, who's dressing me today?
And I have friends, like, I was in London recently and I had left my bag at the hotel. And then I was even traveling with, some of my friends, and they were like, Tia, like, you can't. When I left my bag, I was traveling alone. But the second trip to London, I was with other people. And they were like, Tia, you can't be alone. Like,
everyone thinks that of me too. That you just leave things places. I know.
But it's because you were catered to. And she was telling me that, you know what I mean? She was like, all your life, things were done for you in that sense, because, on set, people are always asking you, what do you want? What do you need? And then I also had parents when I got home, they were just very sheltering. And so even now I think the hardest adjustment that I'm having with the unknown is feeling alone. Yeah. And like being by myself. Yeah. It's been challenging and it's been hard because I've always had a twin. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, she's, up north, and she has her family, and, I'm like, oh my gosh, and it's trying to learn how to navigate being by myself and alone. I feel like that's been the biggest challenge for me, and I'm learning
and trying to learn how to feel joy from it, because a lot of joy came from everybody else. I struggle with that too. I'm always having this desire to be back with my family, back at home, like this constant torn feeling of having that. But I noticed that for me it was a lack of self-confidence and not even insecurity, but lack of self-belief that was stopping me from believing I even could do these things by myself. And so I was going to ask you actually, because obviously having been, I feel like with celebrity culture, people will look and be like, what do you, like, you must have been so confident throughout your life because you had all these people loving you and all these people externally validating you. And from an outside perspective, I do think a lot of people look into celebrity culture and think that, like, how could you be not confident? You must be. What has been your, not even self-love journey, we spoke about that, but your confidence journey throughout being all the different versions of yourself that you've been? Like, how have you built confidence in yourself?
It's very interesting. I'm still on that journey of building confidence within myself. But I will say I am extremely confident when it comes to my career.
Yeah.
So, and I am that way, I think mainly because of experience.
Right.
So at such a young age,
Yes.
I've been through a lot. I've been through tons of rejection. And I have this muscle where I can feel and see and go, okay, well, you know what? If that didn't happen, it was meant to be, but I know something else is going to happen and come.
Has that always been your mindset?
No.
Okay.
Not at all. I feel like when Sister had ended, that was the biggest break.
Yeah.
Meaning I was like years had gone by where there was no work, and I was I was in college. I was trying to figure out, what is it that I want to do? Do I want to move towards getting my master's in psychology, or do I want to continue to act? And then my parents were pushing me towards more of the getting the master's.
Right.
You know, they were like, we're done with this
We've
acting,
done it.
Tia.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, child actor, great, but we don't know how, this is, they wanted some sort of stability for me, which I get. I just had to work through the rejection, the challenges, and just really believe in myself. I feel like the more you believe in yourself and the more that you have confidence in yourself, it exudes, you know what I mean? And then people will have confidence in you. So again, it starts with yourself and coming home to yourself. But I will say this, it's so easy for me to feel that way with my career. But personally, I am struggling. Like, so many people can tell me I'm beautiful, or so many people can tell me these things, but I have to be able to look in the mirror myself and believe it.
I know.
So I'm working on that.
We're so attuned. I think about this all the time because I'm trying to change the habit of looking at myself in the mirror and saying negative things first. But it's such a deep-rooted thing because you kind of start doing that from a very scarily young age, where you start looking at yourself and you start seeing all the things because you start comparing yourself to other people from such a young age. And negative self-talk, I always think, whenever you're negative in one area of your life, it's very difficult for it to just stay in that lane. It seeps through a lot of other things. So I may just be looking at myself in the mirror and saying negative things, but then that negativity is seeping into how I then think other people are perceiving me, and then how I perceive myself, and then how confident I am walking into a room with other people, and then how confident I am talking to somebody else. And so it seems like it's an isolated thing, but actually it pours into every other part of our being. And so I do think negative self-talk, whether it's to do with someone who's struggling to get back into work or struggling to look at themselves and not say anything, we have to change the language. And a practical way that I started doing that was, whether it was negative talk about other people in my mind or myself, I would write down, like, at the end of the day or after I'd done it, and I'd be like, why did I just think that? Like, why did that even come to my mind? I would write it down, and I'd write down what I said in my mind, and then I'd write down what I wish I had said and what I want to be saying. And it was actually a really beautiful practice, because for me, it came from, I started this practice when I was feeling a lot of jealousy towards other people. And I noticed the jealousy was coming because I hadn't figured out, I kept thinking I wanted the thing that was making them happy, but what I wanted was the feeling of happy. I didn't want the thing. I didn't want to be, I used to see my friends who were becoming yoga teachers, and I was like, I want to be a yoga teacher, which, by the way, I did yoga teacher training, which was great, but it wasn't, but I did the yoga teacher training, and I was like, what? I do not feel how they felt. That is not what I want to feel. And so I realized that I was chasing the happy. I wasn't chasing the thing that they had or the action that they were doing.
Yes.
And so what I noticed, though, was I was meeting people and I was saying things out loud, but my words in my head weren't matching the words coming out of my mouth, and it felt icky. Like it did not feel good to be that person. And my one of my teachers, Radhi Swami, always says that integrity is when your words, your actions, and your thoughts are all aligned.
Wow.
And I love that. I love that so much. And so I was like, I want it, because when someone speaks and acts with integrity, you feel it to your core. Like when I meet someone who lives with integrity, their words go straight to my heart. Their actions feel comforting. I feel at ease around them. But I know when I felt someone saying something out of their mouth, but thinking something else, I felt that. And so I know other people were feeling it. So anyway, I started it not to do with talk to myself, but it was to do with talk to other people, because I was trying to be more, I wanted to be a genuine person, but I was finding it difficult to be. And so I started writing those things. That really helped. And then I changed that when I recognized the narrative that was going on in my head. I was like, why am I not confident? And I kept thinking, why am I so insecure? And why am I not like, why do I not believe in anything I can do? And I was then registering all these things I was saying to myself throughout the day. And I was like, well, duh. Because you're saying, oh, this person's saying I can do this person's saying I can do this. But the constant narrative in my head 24 hours a day is telling me you can't do this, you're not going to succeed, you're not going to be able to do this, you won't look good in this. And so I highly recommend, first of all, the first line practice will be observe your mind. What is it saying to you, to other people? What is actually happening in your mind? Because we find comfort where in things that have happened for a long period of time. So you may be not noticing it because it's become your normality, but that normality does not mean it is okay.
Yeah. Wow. Isn't it crazy the narratives that we do have in our head? Like if I were to tell you some of the things that are in my head, I have said some of them out loud. And then to, my friends are like, Tia, I was like, oh my gosh, I am going to die alone with cats and I don't even like cats. I mean, for the cat lovers, I'm not saying that I just, cats, I'm allergic.
Yeah, me too.
But it's like, Tia, you're not going to die alone. Like that's so not true. So the advice that was given to me by Kosho, who's Vex King's wife, she told me, and I started doing this, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is fantastic, is look at yourself in the mirror and basically recite the things that you did throughout the day that you are proud of.
Yeah, that's so nice.
Like, and it could be as simple as, you know what, I'm just proud of you that you drank 8 glasses of water today.
Yes.
And you're putting those positive affirmations and thoughts back into, your mind instead of focusing on the negative self-talk. I'm now looking at myself in the mirror and I'm now saying, positive things to me and things that it's making me actually think about the things that I have done that day that I am proud of.
Exactly. Except because normally we're thinking about, I didn't get this done.
Yeah, exactly. All of the negative or the, the things that you didn't do. So it's been very,
that's
very
a beautiful
helpful.
Practice. I feel like that's gonna. Oh, I'm gonna do that. And
Yeah,
that's gonna help so many people.
Yeah.
It was funny when you said that the dying alone thing. That's not gonna happen to you. You have so many amazing people.
Oh my God!
You did go on a solo trip recently, right?
I did.
Okay, can you
My first ever.
How amazing! How was that for you? Because there are a lot of people who are single in this world, or like don't have a partner, or don't have people that are with them all the time.
Yeah.
And I've spoken to so many of my friends. They're like, I feel so awkward going to a restaurant by myself.
That was me.
Yeah, of course. Like, because our culture is not, there's a table for 2. Very rarely is there a table for 1.
Yeah.
Unless they have community tables, which I really appreciate in restaurants, by the way. But what took you on that trip and made you decide, I'm not going to go with friends, I'm not going to go with family, I'm going to do this by myself?
Okay, so again, I go back to this journal that I've been doing, and it is so fantastic. And in this journal, there's something called the life will. And you shade in like 0 to 10 how you feel that you're doing. And there's like home, there's fun, there's work, there's finances, and all that. And I realized that, again, I have just been constantly giving to other people, and I haven't been having fun. Yeah. Like, I just have not been like on that wheel. I think fun was like, it was a 2.
And you are such a fun person, so that must be hard if it's a 2.
Right? And I feel like also and careers on there. So it's like, I'm always giving into my career, which is fun and nice and awesome.
Yeah.
But I've realized I love to travel and I love to explore, but I never allowed myself to. And I also just didn't give myself time to. And I was like, you know what? This is the perfect time. Also, there's a strike going on, in my industry. There was a writer strike during that time as well. So I was like, things have completely shut down. This is the perfect time for you to just get out with no responsibilities and just enjoy yourself. And look at that fear, because I was also afraid to, travel alone. And I was always thinking about the worst case scenario. That's me.
Leaving your purse everywhere, and your phone everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah. So I said, you know what, Tia, just do it. And so I took the leap of faith, and when I tell you, I now have the travel bug. Like,
Oh my
I'm
gosh.
all
Wait, what places did you go to? That
So
you
I
loved?
went to Spain. I went to Mallorca. So those are 2 different islands in Spain. And then I had a layover in London. So I said, why not just, stay a few days in London? And I have friends in London, and I've had friends, for years, but I never was like, I'm just going to go to
see
London.
them.
Yeah, see them and to
Yeah.
just hang. And when I say I learned so much about myself because I was just sitting with me. I was just sitting with myself, and I had to self-soothe.
Yes.
I think that was the hardest thing, that I didn't have my children to run to when I was feeling lonely or when I was feeling down or when, some dark thoughts came into my head. I literally had to sit there and self-soothe. And I started to see that I am capable.
Wow.
Like, I can do it. And then not having some sort of schedule because it's just you.
Yes.
I was like, I can get used to this. Like, just getting up and leaving whenever I want to. One of my friends, she had invited me out at a party at 11 o'clock at night. And I was like, well, I'm in PJs. She was like, no, Tia, you're coming. I'm going to have my car, come and grab you. And I went out to this party, and I had the best time. So yeah, I learned a lot about myself. It was fantastic. And I literally just told my assistant this the other day. I saw a plane in the air. And for the first time ever, I was like, oh, I'm jealous. Where are they going? Like, you know what I mean? Because I know I have a different perspective now. Because usually it was just I got on a plane to work.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
And the furthest I had ever been without my family was to Canada. And that was to work. So I was like, wow, where are they going? And I'm so excited to, go again and
So
explore.
fun. Explore you, explore the world.
Yeah, exactly.
I know. I find a lot of people do choose travel when they're feeling lost, and I've heard so many people say that when they travel, they find themselves.
True.
You can either be you running away from yourself, or it's
running away from responsibilities now, but
or it's a beautiful journey of seeing new places, but then also seeing new places within yourself and understanding yourself better. That's so nice.
Yeah, it was all about learning and growing and self-discovery. And one of the first things that happened, and you probably won't even notice this on my Instagram, but I lost my luggage.
No way.
My whole 2 weeks of clothes was gone.
No.
And guess what? I still don't know where that bag is.
Oh, wow.
It is still not returned. But I feel like that was the first lesson that I learned on this journey, was to let go.
Oh my gosh. And it was a real practical way of seeing it. It was not what's the word for it? Like, you didn't see a symbol. It was like in your face. Yeah.
And the first few days I cried because I had no clothes. And I was on this small island. This small island. I was like, oh my gosh, like, this is crazy. You know what I mean? And this has never happened to me. Yeah. Why now? Wow. I've been on so many trips. And so I really took that as a lesson, that, all right, Tia, letting go, we got to do that. And I felt the more I did that on this trip and not being so structured, to a schedule and just kind of going with the flow, I enjoyed myself.
And letting go is so important, because even when we were talking about mourning past versions of yourself, unless you are able to let go of those ties, you're not going to be able to become the version of yourself that you're trying to be or that you're moving towards. And I think we end up being hoarders of our past so much. Like, well, we're just going to keep all of this inside of me.
Yeah.
But
comfort,
we don't,
because it's feels safe.
But then there's no space left. There's no space left for other people. There's no space left to receive. There's no space left to experience, because it's all clogged up with these things which no longer serve us.
Yeah.
But we're holding on to just for comfort. And so I think that the idea of letting go, and I always think about this when it comes to New Year. I love New Year because whenever New Year comes around, I feel like it's a new way to reset. It's a new opportunity. I always find any opportunity around, oh great, it's a reset time. It's Christmas, great, let's reset. It's New Year's, let's reset. But I think New Year is really that, and it doesn't have to be big changes. It doesn't have to be, I'm going to become this person, but it's let me reset and come back home.
Yeah.
Like, let me figure out a way, another route, because this isn't working. Or just, letting go of the things of the last year that no longer served you. And I think journaling is a beautiful way to do that.
Yeah.
I really do, where you're writing down all the things that you've carried and that you still feel like are holding heavy on your heart and on your mind.
Yeah.
And then setting a goal and an intention for yourself to say, this is the year, or knowing at the beginning of the year, this is what I want to let go of. It may not happen straight away, but I want to release this, and this is something I'm going to work on letting go of, because sometimes it can take months, years, weeks. Like, it can take a long time depending on how strong those ties are.
Yeah. Also, I've learned that I found myself even judging myself. Like, it's weird. Like, the new me, like, I love the new me or who I'm becoming, but it's almost like I will judge myself for becoming this.
Same.
New. Isn't that weird? Like, why?
I don't know. I don't know. I do that too.
It's weird. Like, judging myself for creating boundaries when this person, was just, I don't want to say like likable, but, and I'm still likable, but I will I have to be like, no, like, Tia, it is okay for you to not judge yourself. You know what I mean? Like,
and how can we not change? Like, I always think if I was the same, I always try to soothe myself in this way. If I was still the same person I was 3 years ago, that would be an issue, because there is no place for stagnancy. Like, we are getting older, we are growing, we are experiencing every single day through our senses so many different things.
Yes.
For that not to change me, that means I would be a robot. Like, for that not to become me and not to change the person that I am. And so I have now tried to see change. And obviously there's bad change and there's good change, but I've tried to recognize that if I am doing the right things and I am trying to grow, that change is who I'm supposed to become. And if I keep trying to stop that, I'm basically stagnating myself and stopping myself.
I could totally see that.
Yeah. Oh my God, there's so much to do in life, isn't there?
I know.
We should take naps. I think I just want to take a nap. Yeah.
Hey, I'm a napper. I love a good nap.
Okay, I have last few quick fire questions.
Okay.
I was going to ask, what are you reading right now? But I know you're reading
When Things Fall Apart.
When Things Fall Apart, everyone. I'm going to definitely put that on my book list.
Yep.
You are always looking so amazing. By the way, let's just take a second, because not only do you show up online, you show up hair done, makeup done, incredible outfits. What are your okay, wait, I just need to put it out there. You have an incredible hair brand that you've just started.
Oh yeah, for you. Yeah.
By the way, it's products for curls that I have just received and I cannot wait to use.
I cannot wait for you to try.
My curls need some loving.
I think they will love it.
But what are your go-tos? Like, for your self-care, for the products that you like using right now, of course, for you, for your curls.
Yeah, so for you, for my curls.
What else are you using at the moment that you love?
So I love fragrance and just scents. I feel like it just really, really puts me like in
a mood.
A great mood. Well, you know what? Someone also told me, they're like, be very careful about sharing what your fragrance is, because you are, you know what I mean?
That
like,
is
it's
your fragrance.
Scent. It's your scent. But I'll just say, like, I love like Tom Ford. Like, I wear several of their fragrances.
Okay. You'll have to guess which one.
Yeah. But it's definitely a go-to. I am always wearing it. I'm refreshing with it and all that kind of stuff. It just makes me feel complete. So I would say fragrance, for you, for curls. Gosh, what else? Oh, so I'm all about skin, and I love
skincare.
I do, and I feel like it's another way of how I take care of myself and just, self-care. So Shani Darton, she is,
I just started using her stuff. I'm obsessed.
Amazing.
Her eye cream, her peptide cream.
Yeah.
I put the eye cream all over my
every
face.
day.
Yeah, it's
and,
so
like,
good.
It is so good. Yeah. So
I just ordered 3 bottles to take home for my mum and my sister.
Well, there you have it. Like, it is definitely.
I'm dying to get a facial from her, but she's like fully booked up.
She's fantastic.
Is she?
That's where I get my like, she is amazing, and she's just a good
and her products
energy.
are really affordable, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
great. Now I know it's definitely good, because I've been feeling it. My friend told me about it too, but it's great.
I basically use the whole line.
Yeah. Okay.
From the wash to the lotion to the toner. To the exfoliator. She has like this nice hydrating cream.
Oh, my skin soaks things in. I want oils on my skin. I need thick, luxurious creams. That's why I love the eye cream.
It is so good, the hydrating cream. So those are just
okay. They're great. Yeah. What emotion do you find difficult to deal with?
Anxiety.
Do you get angry? I feel like you're not.
I
don't know. No, you don't. You're just rainbows and stuff.
My therapist, she's so funny because I'll share, some experiences with her and she's like, I'm going to be angry for you. And then she'll like do that. And I'm like, it's just, I just don't.
How do you express anger?
Interesting. How I express anger is basically fault. So I literally, if something is...
You turn on yourself?
Yeah. So if something is not going well, or I'm just upset and overwhelmed and angry, I automatically turn to myself and say, it's my fault.
Oh, wow.
Which it's not. You know what I mean? Many of times has nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I take things personally.
Yeah.
And so I'm learning
we're gonna have to throw some plates around and stuff at some point.
Yeah.
We have to go to, where we have to go to? Those anger rooms.
Where they
bash things up.
Yeah, okay.
We're gonna go to one of those.
It's just,
No, that's beautiful though.
Thank you.
When was the last time you had a really good cry?
Oh my gosh, I want to say maybe 3 days ago.
Yeah. Love a good cry.
I do. And I'm learning to.
Yeah.
I'm learning to allow myself to move through that emotion and allow myself to release.
Yeah, it's part of letting go.
It's a part of letting go. And so it was actually when I came back from my trip from London. And I think what happens is I have such this high when I travel that when I get back home, it's kind of like
everything hits back again. Yeah.
And so I was like, but
it was also probably releasing a lot of what you'd experienced. Crying for me is everything. I cry when I'm angry, sad, happy. But I have noticed it. After a good cry, you just feel lighter and brighter, and life feels a little bit better.
It does.
Yeah. Okay, so I have this thing. Last thing.
Okay.
It's what kind of cry are you? So I've categorized the criers. Okay.
Okay.
There is number 1, the loud, ugly cry, and that's the.
That's not me.
Okay. There is the breathless. I just didn't know. Okay. There is the sniffler and snotty, where there is some sort of liquid coming out every part of the body. There's snot coming out.
No, that's not me.
Dribbler.
So far the whisper, the
whisper. I feel like I can tell you're going to be one of the other.
Okay.
There's the high pitched, which is the they just go 5 octaves higher suddenly.
Okay, that's not me.
And then there's the I'm not crying, you're crying crier. They're just I've got something in my eye. We're not going to accept that I'm crying. It just
I can't. As you say, I can't hold it in. I'm a crier.
The last one is the silent crier.
Ooh,
where
I'm the silent crier.
They go away.
That's me.
They come back. The eyes are a little bit red.
That's me.
And you have to be like, were you crying? No.
Oh, yeah. My dad.
Or you ask, were you crying? Yeah,
that's me. My dad, he's like, were you crying?
Yeah.
And my son's like, were you crying? And I'm like, so I'm definitely that.
Okay, you're the silent crier.
I'm the silent crier.
Oh, well, thank you so much for being on. I feel like this is going to be such a wonderful conversation for people to learn
Thank you
from.
for having me.
Of course.
Yay! We've had a fun day.
Thank you.